on our website after under training, and we'll also have the opportunity at the end for questions. So please type your questions into the Q&A box and not the box, and we'll do our best to ensure that we answer all of them. Okay, so I'm just going to give a little bit of an introduction for our presenter today. So Eric Davies has spent the past 20 years studying natural history, ecology, conservation, and forestry at Fleming and Trent, Simon Fraser University, and the University of Toronto. He has a tremendous love for nature and is dedicated to helping find, protect, and restore the landscapes and biodiversity of Ontario. He grew up next to the Saugeen First Nation in Southampton and the countrysides of the Grey, Bruce, and Wentworth counties. So he's also developed a deep appreciation for the traditional knowledge of Indigenous people and farmers. So this talk is going to outline how simple forestry methods like silviculture can be used to guide both the removal of invasive plants and the restoration of natives, which when done together increase the ecological integrity of our forest ecosystems. Using Norway maple as an example, this talk will describe how this toxic and lifeless tree is taking over the 18,000-hectare Toronto ravine system and driving its native tree species to local extinction. Some areas of the Toronto ravines now have over 16,000 board feet of Norway maple per hectare and almost zero natural regeneration of native trees. So this talk will help outline silviculture that can be used to guide the removal of Norway maple that produces the optimal conditions for the regeneration of native tree species. All right, so are you ready, Eric?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, go for it.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for the invite to talk here, Kelly. It's a real pleasure, and it's nice to see there's a bunch of people on here, so hopefully after the talk or during or whatever, we can get to some questions. Here's the outline here. Switch. So the things I'm going to review the idea of ecological integrity guideline, using silviculture as a guideline, and then how we can bring these two issues to bear on tackling the Norway maple problem. Starting with ecological integrity, most of this work, like the earliest codification of this, comes from Aldo Leopold's book in 1949, Sand County Almanac. This book kind of forgot for a couple of decades. It's made a huge emergence in the past couple of decades, and this ecological integrity has gone on to not only be one of the trendiest things in ecological sciences, but it has been enshrined in policy. I'll go over a couple of main policy documents for Ontario. This Provincial Parks and Conservation Reserves Act of 2006, and you'll see it states that ecological integrity will be the first priority. And I think that's really important to acknowledge that it's not just something that we can work towards. It is the first priority guiding principle. And the definition that they provide, and often in policy documents, is not always the clearest. This one's pretty good, but the main at the bottom there you'll see is ecological integrity. At the end of the day, you want 100% of your native species. You want those species to be within their natural abundance, and two, you want them functioning together. The next slide here, we'll see the Canada National Parks Act in 2000. They use this as their number priority. And the paragraph on the bottom, I think it's great policy. It's hard to write this stuff, but you'll see that within 5 years, they want to prepare management plans for the long-term ecological vision. And you'll see there it says develop a set of ecological integrity objectives and indicators. And this is something I'll get into a little bit today. You'll see that this is coming up in the news all over. It's almost caught me by surprise a little bit how much everyone is focused on ecological integrity. This is a news report from January 26th, showing that the new report has showed that nearly half of Canada's national park systems rate as fair or poor. And in the guideline, the report that went along with it, you can see here a full document document, what they do is they follow this stoplight system. So when reporting ecological integrity, if you can see this cursor, I'm moving over it, but green is good, yellow is fair, red is poor. I've cut out a few of the parks down here below, and the arrows tell which direction it's going. So Bruce Peninsula here is steady at a green good, but then Point Pelee is steady and it's fair. To bear down more into this, I recommend this chapter as a very good starting point for thinking of ecological integrity. Reference there. On the idea of threshold concepts, which is really important. We'll get a little bit today, but the idea there is that we need monitoring ecosystems to understand thresholds at which, when the condition passes the threshold, you get exponential decline in quality, and it's very difficult to restore. The basic outline for using ecological integrity: number one, define the scale and conceptual framework. Number, select metrics. Something we'll talk about a little bit today, and determine assessment points. You want to design a monitoring system. I kind of have that one added in brackets as something that is really important, that we design monitoring systems that can give us the data that we require to make decisions. Calculate data, collect metrics, report results, and then again, conduct adaptive management. And this is something that happen a lot more. The next slide here shows the table that is it's that Mitchell et al. Paper there, and this is a great breakdown of ecological integrity. I'll just walk through this a little bit here. You see on the left, box ecological integrity has composition, structure, and function. They rate these parks with the color coding system, and what I'll talk about today, next slide here, is the first one, indicator invasive species. This is where maple would fall in. And composition in terms of regeneration and stand structure. Again, you can examine maple this way, and certainly all the native trees. And very importantly at the bottom is function. I think I've spent a lot of work researching is the link between native and native plants and their ability to allow insects to eat them and food webs. So we'll see this arrow, and this is a big question in ecology, in things, the link between structure and function. And it's that if we don't have good structure, then bottom here, there's a good chance we'll get poor function. And so this, for instance, nativeness affect ecological function. This is the time I'm very interested in. A little bit of background on this. Does the plants affect ecological function? Very important conference on biological cycles in 1931 at Copley Armory's fishing camp in Labrador. And at this conference, it was the first time that Charles Elton and Aldo Leopold met each other, and were arguably probably the two most influential ecological thinkers of the day. Aldo Leopold had done a lot of work on forest conservation, thinking about Elton had wrote Animal Ecology. And so this meeting gave an opportunity for these two brilliant thinkers to integrate their thinking on invasive species and forest health. So later, Aldo Leopold codified, put this hypothesis forward, which is probably the first example I know of explicitly stating in literature that shifting native plants to non-native plants could disrupt the flow of energy. You'll see that right at the bottom there, highlighted in green. The idea, again, if you shift, you substitute them for non-native plants, this is going to affect everything else up the field, right? Here, this is the picture that is emerging. That trees provide tremendously rich habitat for biodiversity at every trophic level, right from the insects up to the birds and the top predators, where native trees are less ecosystems, and this is becoming very apparent. Some of the key work that's being done over time on this, Dan Hansen of ecology in the 70s, emphasized an important point that says here, what escapes the eye, however, a much more insidious type of extinction, that's the extinction of ecological interactions. So when we lose a plant, we're not just losing that plant, we're losing all biodiversity that uses that plant, and then most importantly, in terms of ecological function, we're losing those ecological interactions. So substituting our structure, we're losing these important functions. Another guy to really look into, brilliant scientist. He's the head of Harvard Forest. He has written this book on ecological statistics, the editor of Ecological Monographs, and he published this really important paper, and he's done a lot more work on the loss of vegetation species, consequences of the structure and dynamics of forested ecosystems. When you remove a tree, again, you remove a lot of the function. Douglas, you heard of this guy? I'm sure he's really kind of brought this stuff to the forefront over the past decade. Book, Bring Nature Home, and he also has a lot of publications on this. This little graphic at the bottom you'll see here, just to remind us that a single pair of breeding chickadees needs 7,500 caterpillars to rear a clutch of young. So if these birds are non-native trees, there's really not much food there, and they fail. And if they're surrounded by native trees and plants, they're offspring. I've done a bunch of work on this myself at University of Toronto, look at insect and bird diversity in native and non-native trees. One of them has been the Norway maple. And this is a slide that I won't get into a lot right now. If there's questions at the end, we can go through it. This is a big global geographic experiment where you can see up here the green dot is native species. It just shows the average amount of herbivory on a leaf. You can see on the right there's red oak. Natives tend to have, but about over 20% of their leaf will be eaten by the end of the season. So all this biomass is getting liberated to insects. The line are non-native species, genera, families, and orders from North America, and the red line is non-native species, genera, families, and grades from outside North America. You'll note on the bottom the effect sizes here. Once you down to stuff like it's about 2,000 times less. There's nothing on it really, and all non-continental plants are lower than the native ones. I think the reason this is so important is it shows us that non-continental plants, almost without exception, are ecological value. The only ones that have a value are non-native species, and these are the ones that bring disease. So there's really no good reason to plant non-continental plants. However, the yellow line gives us some hope. It shows that species that are south of Toronto still have ecological function. This is due to the long coevolutionary history in the continent of North America. So this gives us some hope, but it underscores the value of native plants and the low value of non-native plants. That is, if you take down a Malaise trap on the left there, this would be what you get from a Treven or ginkgo or something, and on the right, this is what you get from a native tree. There's all kinds of things in there. There's a tremendous amount of insects, thousands of species in Toronto, and it's incredible what you find in native trees. This is what well, generations of people have found this, that native trees are ecosystems that are full of biodiversity. The native trees, again, are lifeless. This is the problem. Despite the fact that we know about this, and we really have for decades, municipalities like the City of Toronto is a good example of how they still recommend planting mostly non-native trees. You'll see on the right here, the one red are all from other continents. And they're hybrids. These things are known to be poor for biodiversity. They probably carry diseases of congeners, our native congeners. And this is what we need to work on shifting. the city for so long has planted primarily non-native trees. You can see in the middle, most of our trees now, 60% or more, are non-native. Most are Norway maple, 25% of the trees we have in Toronto. And so I examined this. I was interested in how, if this was just a Toronto thing, if Toronto was particularly bad, or if it was a continental thing. So I looked at this shifting baseline syndrome of Daniel Blake. I had to look at this in terms of tree composition. I got 30 of these U.S. reports for 30 cities. And what I did is I basically, in a nutshell, calculated what would be native to the area based on their range maps, and then compared that to what was found in those reports. And across the board, we're missing about half of our native tree species. That means they don't even show up by one individual. Toronto, for example, we've lost about 44% of our trees. Even showed up one individual in the inventory. What we have now is mostly non-native species. You can see 64% roughly of the trees in Toronto are non-native. And you step back and look across the continent, this is the 30 species. The thing to look at here is the black circles represent extirpated native species. The green remaining areas represent the extant native species. This would be an index of ecological integrity. What proportion of your native species do you still have? You'll see in the red, that's the introduced species. So our areas are rapidly losing native species, native trees, and becoming non-native ecosystems. So this quote here, I think you'll all like it. It's a quote from Aldo Leopold from 1942, from his essay called "The Last Stand in Outdoor America," and you can read it, but he's saying that the sugar maple is North American as it gets, and yet the demise of maple forest brings us no less regret than the demise of an old tire. And notes here that the poorest is the Norway maple, a colorless, fast-growing tree that persistently used by misguided suburbanites to kill lawns. This quote couldn't be truer today than back then. It's just got worse. But again, I think folks should appreciate this. And so, again, we have this without changing the philosophy that municipalities use for planting trees. We're going to continue to have widespread loss of native species in our urban areas, and then this will have implications for the areas that surround them. Some of those urban forests surround the ravines and non-native plants. They're from biotic pollution. So what we've done is we've urban areas into basically non-native regions, and these seeds will spill into the ravines here. Toronto has this Toronto Ravine Strategy. It's been working about 2 years. There's no plan for ecological integrity yet. There's no report. The council, in a month, they've hired a consultant to invent an alternate framework for ecological integrity. Who knows? We haven't seen this, but it's not trending in the right direction. Hopefully they do federal and provincial convention, because ecological integrity just provides us such a great framework. This started the Toronto Ravine Study. There's the website there. You can check it out. Here's to lend our expertise to develop silvicultural guidelines for monitoring and restoring the ecological integrity of the Toronto ravines. And hopefully link this in with the Toronto Ravine Strategy. We're on the advisory group. It is a broad advisory group, and to balance the interests of a variety of people, so they're still in the process of which way they'll go. Here's quickly our main project. We covered this on the left panel. You'll see the 1977 Rosedale Ravine Study, which Dale Taylor and Paul Scribner, along with Nobel Prize winning biologist Jeffries, UT, And they went, you can see those black boxes in the 70s, they went into the 4 different ravines, inventoried the biodiversity, all different taxonomic groups, and got this very valuable baseline of the conditions 40 years ago. We have back, you can see in the right panel, and we're in the process of resurveying these. We've resurveyed all the plots for trees, all trees down to 3 centimeters. So I'll go a little bit of this work, view what's happening with the Norway maple. This work comes from Anki Dong's thesis, which was the first MFC thesis on this. She actually won the Jackson Prize. She did tremendous work here, and I'll go through some of this. So what is the plots that we relocated? This is in the Park Drive ravine. We inventoried those plots, and this is what we found. So on the left, 1977, 2015, 2025. The thing to note here is the red is Norway maple, okay? So you can see between 1977 and 2015, the Norway maple has doubled. So that's even more troubling perhaps is the gray is ash and beech, right? Both of these trees are in rapid decline across the continent due to beech bark disease and emerald ash borer. As these things go, the most rapidly expanding tree is the maple, and this will likely take over. The space is missing from that. So I've here a series of graphics that you can see. We got the data we had in those plots. We extrapolated it over the area. So originally, historically, the ravines would have been a wonderful native forest, old growth forest, just beautiful. It would have gone through phases of widespread cutting in a lot of areas, but a lot of areas remained. And what we found in 1977 was this proportion here of Norway maple and the red. 2000 is what we found. It's approaching 50%, and if it continues on for another cycle, this is what we'll get by 2050. This is conservative, but it's just taking over the ravines. And so, how do we deal with this? We culture to bear in this. So, again, all the Leopold, and an early quote here. I like that he says, "Forest should always prescribe a mixed stand. That is, the perpetuation of every indigenous species. Variety is as valuable as quantity." Silviculture is it's the heart of forestry. It's a very complex topic. I'm just learning about myself, and I would direct those interested in hearing more about this to check in on Ken Elliott at M&R, Harry Schwann. These are a couple folks that I admire and have learned from. Kermson, Sean Thomas at UAT. I'll go through a little bit of what I've done on this and hopefully show how to use silviculture to assist. There is the classic rugged distribution of trees. I'll just go forward to show the sources I use for this. So I pretty much use the Ontario Silvicultural Guideline for managing Southern Ontario forests. This is the most relevant one. I noted that this is the covers 7E, which is quite a broad area. This was primarily geared towards even-aged forestry. And we, of course, want uneven-age stands, and it's also primarily for upland forests, and the ravines are unique forests. So these here values should be taken as estimates. So actually, it's a little bit easier. Okay, so this here, we'll spend a few minutes walking over the figure, reviewing it. This is kind of the main figure box. So the bottom, the number of stems, right? This light color is the amount of stems that's recommended by the Silvicultural Guideline, and I used the northern hardwood forest type instead of the oak forest. Doing that is oak forest is designed for forests that have 50% or greater oak, which the ravines do in many areas. The hardwoods is set for forests that have greater than 25% sugar maple. None of them are perfect. They're here to serve as a reference point of what is recommended. Okay, so and the red maple at the and the dark green on the top is the number that we found in the ravine. So if we walk through this is hectare. There's information on how many acorns you'd need. A good match year would be about 650,000 acorns per hectare per year. Other masting species, of course, last year we did a research study on this and found very low numbers of acorns. Or if you see down here, the maple, we didn't count them, but they're, even a square meter sometimes can have tons. So this is a conservative estimate of over 100,000. Seeds again, you'll see we get our sources. These are the sources up here, which are on the previous slide. You can see here 8,000 seedlings per to sustain a healthy population. Saplings, we need about 5,000 to 10,000. So right here in our work, read these plots, we found only 13 saplings, right? So that's anything from 3 to 9 centimeters. We're supposed to have, and this is a guesstimate, 5,000, and we only have 13, so about 0.2%. The recommended volume of total stems, okay, not just oak. If we hear polewood, 10 to 24 centimeters, stems recommended ranges from about 4 to 700. We 6 oaks. Okay, that's about 1.1% of the recommended number. Small saw logs, to 36 centimeter, again, recommend 220 to 350. We found 3. You can go down the list here, and what you'll see is that the amount of oaks that you're finding is so small, they're not going to be able to sustain the population into time, because you need a lot of individuals at each of these younger steps in order to sustain a healthy population near the end. So what this shows us is that red oak, the population is very small and it's quickly dying out. If a red on the bottom, this is a maple. It tells us a different story. As you can see, every single age category of Nora maple, there's the numbers we found at the bottom: 9 saplings per hectare, 72 pole, 24, 11, 3, and 1.3. So the board feet volume, the references for this are on the back. Again, this is a rough estimate. But if we look at just the board feet, we'd have 16,911 board feet. Of course, this is going to vary depending on where you go. There are areas of the ravines that are very, very healthy. There's a few remaining sites that have very little Nora maple, but most have Nora maple, and many sites have almost 100% Nora maple. So what it allows us to do is not only examine the health of the native population, but allows us to see the population of the Nora maple here. What should be done is something like there, and move the Nora maple in a way that minimizes the conditions for the regeneration of oaks, which are they're an intermediate species. They need some sun, and a lot of these areas that have the Nora maple are just too shady. The roots are probably toxic as well. So by removing this Nora maple, we could create the conditions required for it. A very important point here is that Priding the Norway maple, we need to have an abundance of advanced regeneration of these native trees, and this is something that we'll need to about quite a bit. I think this is going to require a massive collection of native trees and growing these, having them on site, because right now, again, we don't want into the city to get non-trees or non-native genotypes. We want to put in the best thing possible. So I'll leave this figure now. If we have more questions, we can come back later. These are the three things that I kind of wanted to hit on today. I'm going to leave a little bit of time so we can get to some questions, of course, using ecological integrity as a guideline, using culture as a guideline, tackling the Norway maple problem. One that I think is an important thing to talk about that doesn't get talked about too much is this idea of beauty. Leopold had that as one of his three tenets. It's not really included, of course. It's a difficult one to think about, but think about this in terms of even landscape art. This is a Tom Thompson painting. And a fungal pathogen or something attacking the artwork in our museums, we would have this solved in a day, an hour, right? And let our native ecosystems deteriorate so much of a second thought. And so a bee system is a healthy ecosystem, right? And I think I'll just leave that in there as something to think about. I like looking at this picture of the group of 7. It looks like they're looking at us, kind of wondering, do we have what it takes to restore our ecosystems? And we definitely do. That's the benefit of ecological integrity and silviculture. They are transparent, objective guidance that we can all use. So I'd like to kind of end by noting that the Faculty of Forestry is a good source for expertise on this. It's 120 years this year. It's just such an incredible group. It's process of being shut down now by the university to lack of a relevance. Of course, we all disagree with that. We think this is a very important institution that should be kept along, and just encourage you guys to reach out to us and work with us. We have to all collectively work again on shifting philosophy to plant non-native species at a dominant rate and move it more into the green. And said the main passion project for about the past 20 years has been growing native trees from seed. I think that we try to figure out what the bureaucrats decide in terms of how our ecosystems will be managed. Citizens can get way out ahead on this. You'll see the predicted density of old trees. We've been massive trees in the ravines, forecasting their seeds. We had a math student on this last year with Barb Boysen as an external in Toronto that oaks forecasted. We're collecting seeds and planting them, and working with citizens to empower them in terms of forest stewardship. So thank you for your time, and especially to Kelly Sherman for the invitation, and how I need to get these slides in on time, which I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Awesome. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, that was great. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed that. I like your positive outlook as well. Yeah, so we have lots of time for questions. So please type them into the question and answer box. I see a couple in the chat. I'll try to get to them all for sure. So Eric, I'll feed to them, so don't worry about reading yet myself, so I'll just feed to them. So yeah, we'll get going. So there's quite a few already. So the first question is, part of the reason cities might plant non-natives is because they're hardy. So the question kind of is, just how hardy are the native species want in a city or street area context in comparison?
That's a great question. That's the most common question. I think it's also maybe the most common misconception about plants, that native plants don't grow in tough areas. So we native plants have more biodiversity. But look around for survival of trees. I don't know of any research has done a proper randomized block design comparing of native and native trees.
Right.
So without any kind of data or science, it basically just comes down to conjecture. But there are I was actually talking with Somerville Nursery the other week, and they're really interested in getting out front on this and doing some experiments to show survivability of trees.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. And there are lots of, like in our Grow Me Instead guide, there are lots of native species that are hard.
Yeah.
Lots of alternatives. Okay, so the next one is, you know this too, are Norway maples allelopathic? And
that's an interesting question. If you literature review on that, you'll find that there are folks that say they are. I think there's a bit of question about how toxic they are. I know this requires good randomized block designs where I don't know that there's a tremendous amount on that now. I know someone else has some of the attendees a better perspective on that, but as far as I know, it's not the case.
okay. Okay. Sorry, I might have to ask for clarification on this one. The question is, sometimes people who plant a tree don't want anything eating them, apart from noting that they're herbivores, so insect larvae feed birds. Do you have other arguments that we can make on the ground for, I guess, just removing not Norways?
So it's kind of a neat one because I think a lot of people don't want insects crawling everywhere. And the idea of insects being everywhere might turn people off. The important thing is that without insects, you just don't have anything, right? So
for sure.
I also think that some of these insects are so tiny and so harmless that you don't even really realize they're there. If you go put a Malaise trap in a native tree, or if you sweep some native shrubs, it's just astounding what you get that you don't even see. So I think a lot is visible.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, you want to think about it. I'll give that some more thought.
Okay. So the next one is the removal of a large quantity of Norway maples could create disturbed sites and potentially accelerate the establishment of other invasives. Is this considered in those silviculture guides? Yeah,
absolutely. That's a very important thing. I think this can be seen with the ash removal in Toronto. Widespread ash removal. They're planting stuff, I'm sure. I don't know where they get their seed stock from. But the main thing with in forestry is to ensure that you have advanced regeneration of the species you already want there. So prior to cutting the Norway maple, you'd want to make sure there was, again, thousands of little seedlings in order to take advantage of that sun and then simultaneously beating out the invasive ones that come in. I mean, it's a lot of work. Like restoration takes a lot of time and effort, so I think that can be easily overcome.
Okay. So this is just a comment. I guess it's just a comment. Maybe they're from the city that the city also does have a native, like a tree and shrub list as well. Are you aware of that? Like for some natives, or
is it brand new, or is it on a website or anything, or?
I'm not. I'd have to get and then some.
Yeah, I mean, I know they redid their recommended planting list just last year, but again, they put most native trees and actually even had some errors in terms of calling trees native when they weren't. So
right.
These things change quite a bit. It's maybe all the more reason for the city to use an objective scientific framework for doing this stuff as opposed to expert opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Good point. So the tree slide, the one with the grass, with the acorn and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So that was I'm kind of answering my own question here, probably, or the question. That was for, yeah, that were those plots that you showed?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. So now, if they are still, because we just talked about that list, and are there any types of plantings in the ravines? Like just planting in general, like restoration or?
Yeah, I think they've done, there's a lot of people that have done a lot of great work over there. As far as I know, though, I don't know that there's a guide for picking what goes in there. As far as I know, there's no regulations about using local Providence seed.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the way in which they plant them, the matrix structure should replicate a natural system as opposed to be anything haphazardly. I think they probably do a lot of good work. So that certainly is questionable.
For sure. And that's, like, definitely try to work with municipalities and cities when we can to provide some of that information and education. But I agree with, like, a standard kind of protocol for planting based on the different ecosystem types and that kind of thing. So this is just a comment here, which is maybe try and share some information that LEAF, I can't remember that was for.
Yeah, local enhancement and appreciation.
Oh, right. So they have this is just a comment to share with people. They have a native tree list and a subsidized planting program for homeowners. So that's interesting.
Yeah, they do a ton of great work, and then people around your house to look at your growing area, and a bright star in the whole campaign to improve the ecological health of our city.
Yeah. Just a comment here to share with. So I guess in Ottawa there was a proposal to remove Norway maples taken over an area behind the Parliament buildings, and the local ecologist complained to the newspaper, and then the project was stopped. To plant sugar maples. So just a little tidbit of information. It's good to kind of share information for initiatives that might happen like that, and then be able to provide the benefits. That's why we do this type of webinar, right? We have the evidence that you're showing that can help support our argument. Have you, like, is there anyone from the Toronto, like the city, that looked at your research and things?
Let me think. It's of course they've been in the audience many times when I've presented this stuff, so I think all people are familiar with it. I'm on the advisory board for the Toronto Review Strategy, so is my supervisor Sandy Smith. But
right.
It's a funny process. You don't really, they don't have much of a science team there. So yeah, we haven't really asked us for help or this kind of stuff. I don't know if they don't much, which is an issue, I think.
This is particular for like a particular area, obviously in a project. You kind of looking at any other invasive trees or areas where Norway maple is an issue?
On Norway maple primarily, I have other invasive trees, non-native trees, in terms of their ecological function. And so I've done that work. In terms of the invasibility, we just focused on Norway maple because it's much work to get the data on this, but I'm thinking of another tree that would be, we have European elms. You could really apply the silvicultural technique to any tree, and the city of Toronto really should do this for all the trees, because we know about the health of not just the invasive ones, but our native ones as well.
For sure. Okay, well, I think that's it for questions, unless anyone else has any other before we sign off here. I'm here. Okay, the question. In 2004, Trees Ontario and the City of Toronto Urban Forestry initiated the Tree Seed Diversity Project. Do you know the status of this or know anything about it?
I've had a bunch of meetings with the city over the past NGO tree groups, like Toronto Parks and Trees Foundation, to kind of initiate this. I think it's kind of fallen to the sidelines. They've done a lot of really great work in the city in terms of growing some of this stuff in partnership with the TRCA. But I think it's the kind of thing that probably needs increased capacity to meet the demand for the trees that they're growing. So they think they more seed.
What was it? Do you I don't know about this particular. What was the goal or the intent?
I haven't seen the document. I've talked with a number of people on there interested in initiating these things, but yeah, I'm not able to really comment on the particulars of it.
Okay. Oh, link here. I won't click it just because I don't want to. I'll look at it after and try and send some information. So this last one, well, we might get some more. So another question here. Municipalities seems like they want small trees, kind of eliminate some of those larger trees like maples and beech. Do you have any suggestions to counteract that change? Maybe that's probably because of the potential damage that could be had from the big trees.
Yeah, I think that's two important points there. One, I don't think we should let cities go to tiny little planter boxes. They do this in the subdivisions as well, where they make the front yards so small they could never really have a full-grown mature tree. I think one part of it is a policy to ensure that there is better tree growing areas. And one guy comes to mind in Toronto is Peter Simon, and in years developing planting areas for. That's one thing. Another thing is you'll see. A lot of trees grow in a stunted form, anyways. So I think I see that as we have smaller native trees.
Right. No. Okay, so if we have time for any other question, if anyone has anything else before we sign off here. I mentioned this will be recorded. It is being recorded and will be posted. Recording will be. I still have to get permission, I guess, from you, Eric, if I can share your foundation. Okay. Okay, so I just want to thank everyone for attending, and that was really good. And like I said, it'll be up online, so please share, because I think this is really good evidence. Some of this evidence that we can use is just that's why I was looking forward to this webinar, to learn, some of the specifics as to what's happening with these invasives and the damage that they're causing. Sometimes we lack that information, so I asked if there could be any other research happening on any other invasives too. That would be really beneficial. But so is there anything else you want to add, Eric?
No, for the to present this work, and any of the attendees that would like to have more or collaborate more on this work, that would be great. So please reach out and be here if any things or on this stuff.
Yeah, sure, and you provided your information, because I think you probably will, because they just had a comment. That was an excellent presentation, and they would love to get a copy. So we will be putting, like I said, online. So yeah, that was really good.
Great.
Well, take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ciao for now.
Have a good day, everyone.